Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
Down in competition in the ratings tab for late night weekend viewers.
all right, here we are. Better late than never. It's the Rob Nelson live show. David Gockstein's on. Good to have you, David. No idea why you're running the show. It's going through your central control. I feel like I've been hacked by you, and we had lots of tech problems getting to this moment. But it's good to have you. Good to see you. And I like our white background. I like this. It's very patriotic. Red, white, and blue.
There you go. There you go.
Let's jump right in. So we talked on your show the other day. We were talking about politics, about Iran. I want to pick up on Iran, and then I want to go like a meta level on all this with what's going on in politics, both in American politics and mostly American politics, but how it permeates into the world politics, because we touched on that too. So I'm just going to pick up some of the loose pieces here for those of you who might not have heard us on David's show. David, I think the reality is that we are in a, I'm going to say it this way, we are in a fundamental, like a cataclysmic political shift. I think we're in a cultural civil war for sure. I think we're entering what I would call political civil war, and where it's really becoming so hyper divided that you can't cross to the other side. We're not in a physical civil war, and I don't know that we ever would be. I mean, it's possible we could get into, that's that movie, The Civil War, where, California and Texas team up and, like the Fed government surrounds itself in DC and they bring in tanks and, is it all about war? With the middle of the country, there's patches of beauty and harmony and farmland. But I think that division is massive, and I think that affects every single political decision that gets made, period, across the board. Foreign, domestic, local, right? So I think it's a framework. You can't look at it from a different lens. You can't go, well, this is a rational thing to do. It's a rational thing to say men are men and women are women. I can support you being transgender, but by definition, you're a trans woman, meaning you're a trans woman. You're not a woman, you're a trans woman. But no, men and women, there's no difference. It's all the same. Can men have babies? Sure, maybe. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's not about the logic anymore. I think that's the framework we're operating in. So when you talk about Iran or Department of Homeland Security or Trump and his tariff policies, I'm not sure one side and the other side can actually see anything other than through their lens. It's just the other side's bad, whatever they do or say, and I'll say whatever. That's just my framework, how I look at this, my lens.
I agree with you. Right now we live in a generation where I've never seen it this bad. I mean, like, forget about even having a debate. There's screaming matches now. I was watching Scott Jennings just now trying to talk to a Democrat, and he said, "Can we have a debate on this?" Because she started attacking Trump and. She went into the, Iranian war, and all this stuff. And he's trying to lay everything out. She keeps interrupting him. She keeps yelling. You can't get somewhere if people are going to yell at each other. So, I mean, for me personally, when it comes down to Trump, I voted for Trump because I wanted common sense back. I wanted to fix the economy. The economy was bad. Wanted to fix that. If you're a crypto bro or if you're a finance bro, you wanted retail to be able to participate in TriFi or in crypto. It just made sense. So common sense, participating in the stock market as a retail participant, huge. And really make America great again. Like, for real, let the priority be America first. I don't see any problems with that. Kids, when they go to school, they shouldn't be learning about gender identities. No, they should be going to school and learning about math, finances, geography, social, whatever. They should not be going into the classroom learning about pronouns. Common sense says biological men shouldn't be playing in women's sports. Okay, like these are common sense issues, and I wanted to get back to common sense because a lot of this stuff was people were getting canceled for it. You can't say nothing when it's scientifically proven. My side right now talking to be true that like biological men have an advantage against women. They shouldn't be participating in the WNBA or in the
Mhm.
CAA swim meets. Okay, it's just wrong. Look at the Olympic boxing situation. It's wrong. It is absolutely wrong. So common sense was a big issue for me when it came down to voting. I think I think right now Trump has done a really good job. Is it perfect? No, but I think he's done a really good job. Are there things that I don't like? Yes, but for the most part, he's done a great job. What? You want to go to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Is that where you
But
wanted? I'm not saying
no,
is that where the country wanted to go.
no, I'm saying I don't think I'm with you on the common sense thing. But my point is, what happens when common sense no longer applies? See, that's why I say I say when you hit the point of a civil war, logic stops mattering, right? I mean, if you wanted to look at common sense and you use the example of, say, biological men in sports, right? You couldn't get a better example than Caitlyn Jenner, who was Bruce Jenner. You have a
But Kate,
man who
but
was
Caitlyn agrees, though. Caitlyn
yeah, but
agrees
that's
with
my
it.
point. That's my point. So if you have a person who was one of the best athletes in the entire planet and was a man, and then just on his own decides I'm a woman and has a gender switch and becomes a woman and identifies and lives and has certain sexual procedures, whatever, to be a woman for many decades. Now we get this whole debate. You would think if a Caitlyn Jenner came out and said, look, everybody, clearly I'm in favor of trans people because I am one. But I'm also aware that I was a supreme male athlete, and there isn't a single human woman on the planet who could have ever beat me. And basically, I could probably still beat a whole lot of them, like even though I'm like 70. And people are still like, no, Caitlyn Jenner's she's just a Trump person. And then literally dismiss it. I mean, what? It's sort of like if Jesus came down and talked to people, they'd be like, it's not Jesus. Like, I'm just saying,
They'll say Jesus is paid off.
Common sense is out the window. So when you go to common sense, I'm like, okay, what happens when people stop caring about common sense? That's the world I think we're in. We're trying to make rational decisions and go, let's make this about what makes sense. And I'm going,
Yes.
so it doesn't matter what makes sense. So this is the problem with the current state of politics. It doesn't matter what makes sense for either side. And I'm not going to say Republicans are immune from this either, or Trump people, I mean, honestly, I think a guy like Bill Maher makes sense.
He does. I mean, and I wasn't a big fan of his, but I've listened to him
he
lately.
gets beat up by both sides, David. He gets beat
No,
up by
but
both sides.
But because he's getting beaten up because he's pointing out. I agree with some of his stuff. He's pointing out facts. So even if
He's
it's
being common sense.
yeah, which is the key words here tonight. Common sense.
But if you're being common sense and you're a Bill Maher and you get attacked from the people, I mean, he's a liberal. You get attacked from the liberals and the conservatives. What does that tell you about you're being common sense? So, I'm being common sense and I'm saying the other side, and I don't mean in our case, the other side might be people who are more liberal, but to the liberals who are common sense, like a Bill Maher.
Yeah, but there's liberals and then
Republicans
there's
don't give credit.
no, but there's two things though. Hold on. There's two types of definitions we can use here. There's liberals who have common sense, who can, like Bill Maher, they can break things down. They can agree with certain topics from a side that they're not aligned with and disagree, like normal human beings. But then there's the radical left. But there is also a radical right too. I'm not
Right.
dismissing that.
Right.
There's an absolute
Right.
radical right. But
Right.
they're not as loud as the radical left. Like the left is not even running on anything except I hate Trump. And that might work towards their benefit because there are people that don't like Trump because they've been brainwashed by mainstream media not to like him. Mainstream media is out here telling politicians in like Gavin Newsom, they're calling him the next Hitler. Here's Hitler with his Nazi crew. And people that are sitting home all day long, because there are people that sit home all day long, they're listening to this. I'll give you the percents here. 43 million people are on SNAP benefits. 43 million. That all came from the Democrats. That's the Biden administration. Why would they support Democrats? Because they're getting free money. People are getting free money.
Yeah.
They don't have to go to work. They're not paying taxes.
Yeah.
They're going to relax on the beach. They're chilling out. They have no reason to complain. They want this system because they grew up in that system. The Republicans, in my opinion, are trying to give people. We talk about America gives you a wonderful opportunity to succeed. I believe the Republicans are trying to give that to people. Here, you have a great opportunity in America to be whatever you want to be, regardless of your skin color, race, religion. It doesn't matter. You can do these things. I believe people have been brainwashed to believe Orange Man bad. Anything he does, he can cure cancer. We talked about this. They would boycott the cure. If you cured cancer, they'd boycott the cure. And that's how bad it is. We're going to need in 2028, I love Trump. We're going to need in 2028 somebody who is, and I don't know if it comes in 2028, but we're going to need in the next decade a unifier to come along to say, guys, we're Americans, United States of America. It's time to unite and stop being divided. But we have a bigger problem, though, because at the end of the day, it's the elites behind the curtains that push the narratives to cause chaos. How do you control the population? You divide them. And that's what we're in.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to agree with you. We need a uniter, and it's certainly not Trump. I don't think, though, it's anybody who's in the Trump orbit in that way, because they are not uniters. Trump's not a uniter. And honestly, I as much as I agree with everything you said about what people on the left have done and what, and some of the ridiculous responses that you see. On the same on the right. I mean, when former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem called the two people who got shot domestic terrorists, I'm like, seriously? The lady's yelling at guys with guns and, driving her car at 2 miles an hour. Like, it's just absurd. They weren't domestic terrorists. They were protesters. They didn't like the ICE agents being there. They were up in their faces. But, they shot the guy 7 times on the ground. It was like at some point you go, that wasn't necessary. He was dead. Like, he just kept pummeling bullets in him. Now, that's where I think, that's where I think people on the right go, no. I'm going to be the first to say, I've been huge on border enforcement for a decade. And I wanted to see agents come in and get the most violent criminals out. I did not want to see, and I don't think most Americans want to see, masked agents carrying guns, marching into communities, ripping kids out of schools, pulling people out of their workplaces. Those are community members. They've been there. Better or worse, they broke a law, technically a civil law, but yes, they broke a law. I mean, it's a civil offense. They came over the border 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Since then, they become members of their community, bought houses, paid taxes, kids go to school, everyone's friends. You don't go and yank those people out with people with masks. I'm sorry. It's just ugly. It's not necessary. And I understand why it's creating a backlash, even among again, almost all independents are like, this is not what you said you were going to do. And that's why I think people on the right need to go, you know what? Yes, we don't have to literally grab the school teacher and drag her out and be like, you came in 12 years ago illegally. We're taking you out. It's like, no, get the rapists. I don't know your thoughts on that, but I have a strong opinion on that.
I want to touch on the subject of you talking about the protesters and them being called domestic terrorists. So here's the way I see it. I'm not going. Number one, I feel bad for the guy who got killed, but he went to the rally, and there was tape that came out of him hitting ICE vehicles. Like the first tape shows that he was literally damaging an ICE vehicle.
kicks in the back, the glass. Yeah.
Correct. And then
Yeah.
he shows up to another rally. He has a gun, right?
Yeah.
Who brings a gun? I don't care, if you have a carry, permit, great. But who goes to a rally or a protest, I should say, with a gun? You're putting yourself in the line of danger. You're asking for it from that standpoint.
Well,
I'm not saying it was right. All I'm saying is I'm not going to okay, Rob, I am not going to a protest with a gun, knowing that ICE is now walking around in Minnesota. They're on edge because everybody hates them. Everybody wants them gone. Okay. And people are ready. People are ready to attack them. So what's going to happen? You're going to have one guy who's not going to be able to hold back, and he's going to feel he's in danger, and he's going to shoot. Is it right?
Yeah, but no.
If you're going to ask me if it's right or wrong, that's a different discussion.
No, I'm not. I'm going to ask you to reconsider your storyline. The guy didn't feel he was in danger. The guy who died literally had 7 ICE agents on him. He never pulled out the gun. Some saw the gun in his waistband while his arm. Hold on. Let me frame it. Okay. No one was in danger. And the fact is, and this is what I will say, my problem is this is exactly what happened with the guy in Wisconsin who was a conservative. And they were like, well, who comes to a rally with a gun? I'm like, well, that's not the point. The guy had a concealed weapon. Yes, he kicked in the taillights of a car. So what? The bottom line for me is they shot him. They shot him again. And he's lying on the ground. They shot him on the ground with no gun in his hand, with no gun near him. They shot him on the ground. Then the guy steps back, steps forward, and shoots him 5 more times on the ground. That is not just not okay. That is abusive policing. And that was not justifiable. And it also wasn't caused because that guy scared them. It was caused because that guy pissed them off. They were pissed off at him. They were annoyed at him. They were never threatened. 7 guys with guns weren't by this wimpy little guy, the school teacher.
I'm going to agree with half of your stuff. I will say this. When you have a gun on you, but
they didn't know he had a gun on him until the end.
No, but they seen the gun. I mean, what they
Not
did in the
until
beginning,
the
like,
end.
he tried to protect the woman, but he's been known he already a few days before that he kicked in the lights. They already have a profile on him. Did those did the ICE officers know? Those particular ICE officers know, the ones that obviously that were a part of the altercation? I don't think so. All I'm saying is you bring a gun to a rally, right? And he's not going there to be, to have a peaceful rally. He's going there with intentions to interfere with ICE. Okay, you're an agitator.
Yes, agreed.
And the two cases with the
agitators
I don't agree with his life being taken.
Agitators are allowed in the United States.
All I'm saying is, if you go to a hostile situation, like these are the type of things that could happen. You got I'm not saying you can't protest. Go protest peacefully. You don't like what's happening? Go protest.
You know what?
I'm all about freedom of speech and protesting. All I want to say is on that, real quick, on his death, unlike Renee Good, with him, obviously, better training is what I can say, is because they saw a gun, it shot off, and they unloaded like you're supposed to unload your round, make sure that the suspect is dead. But I don't believe he should have lost his life. That's one thing that I will say. Better training should have been done there. But again, you're in a hostile situation, milliseconds to think. You hear a gun go off. They're screaming, he has a... Hold on, but listen, Rob. If you're a police officer and somebody's screaming gun, he has a gun, right? And we have to... It's easy to sit back in this chair and say, you know what? I wouldn't have done it.
This is my point. There is no convincing you, and yet I am on your side.
You can. No, you can. I just told you.
I can't.
I told you. No, you're not listening to me, Rob. I told you.
I have the same argument you made.
You didn't hear me out.
The same argument. I did.
I'm
He's
not
just
making
let
the
you
argument.
explain the whole thing.
I'm not making that. I'm not making the right argument, meaning the right side argument. I can call it for what it is.
And by
Should
that
the guy have
logic,
lost?
the reverse situation in Wisconsin 2 years ago was the same thing. And people on the left said just what you're saying. He came to a
No, but I'm
rally with a
saying,
gun.
hold on. But what I'm saying about his name is Alex. What I'm saying about him is, I don't believe he should have lost his life, even with him carrying a gun, even
I
him
agree.
going to that protest.
I don't think
I don't
you
believe
do.
he should have lost. I just,
I don't think you do
my
either.
thing is, when you put yourself in that position, Rob, this kind of shit happens. That's all I'm saying. You don't go.
No, I don't. No. That's what I'm disagreeing with you. And that's what they said about the kid in Wisconsin. That's what people say. If a woman wears a short skirt, high heels, and a tight top and walks down an alley at night, you put yourself in a position to get raped. Theoretically, there are better positions to put yourself in. But we're blaming, this is my problem with this. At some point, the right needs to say, and you know what? Here's all I would say to this, David. You're shaking your head.
I just
Here's
said
what
that
I
the
would say.
officers
You know who
in that.
agrees with
I
me?
said the
Hold on.
officers in this situation weren't right either. I said that just now.
No, but
I said better training.
Be on that. They shouldn't even be agents anymore. Here's
Yeah,
what I
but
do.
better
Here's
training.
what I think.
So what? Okay, but Rob, hold on. In 2016, when Obama was deporting people, nobody said a word. 3 million people were deported and millions of people put into cages. That's okay.
Because it wasn't okay, but I'm saying this is my point. This is why I'm started with this. We're in a civil war. And all I will say is there is one person who agrees with me right now in this argument. You know who it is? Donald Trump. And you know why he agrees with me? Because 2 weeks later, he fired Kristi. He fired Kristi Noem as Department of Homeland Security. He never publicly said, other than we're looking into it. But he knows that was fucked up. That should not have happened. She is running a department where people are getting shot on the streets and they shouldn't be. Now, publicly, he's going to defend them. But privately, he's like, clean this mess up. Why are we killing civilians testing? He didn't think they were domestic terrorists.
I believe that we have these organizations that have put these people. Okay, his own parents came out and said that there's something wrong with him, meaning that psychologically he got into this. Read it. It's not me. It's his parents saying. His own family said, it wasn't like he took off day off his nursing gig. He didn't. He wasn't working for a while. He was out here protesting.
Right.
You know who I blame? And I said this before. I don't even blame him. I blame the ICE raid, community centers, whatever they're called. I forgot the name of them. The anti-ICE, squads, where they're teaching people like him to you got to go out there and interfere and impede ICE from doing their job. That's my problem. I will agree with you again. I'm in agreement here with you. I think better training when it comes to Alex. What happened with Alex, better training was needed. But again, I can't sit here. What I'm trying to say is, me sitting in this chair right now, I can agree with you and say, man, he shouldn't have lost his life. I'm not an agent out there while it's happening, and I got to think within a millisecond somebody screams gun, that gun could be pointed at me. When it's funny, everybody talks about Renee Good, that she didn't do nothing. Yeah, when the video came out of the officer who had the camera, thankfully for him, because he didn't have the body camera, he had his own personal phone videotaping. When he goes out, you could see that she just wasn't driving away because she dropped off her kids and she was just driving and she got caught in a bad situation. No, she was impeding. She was purposely impeding ICE from doing their job.
I agree.
So what happens?
David,
She's fine. If it wasn't for the ice on the floor and her vehicle didn't spin, she would have hit him directly. She still hit him, but she would have hit him directly. And the guy, the ICE agent, it was already on record weeks before he already got hit. He already got hurt, doing his job. Well, here, I'm going to land my plane. I promise, Rob. I'm going to land my plane. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying anybody's life should be taken. So let me correct something so it doesn't get put out of context. Renee Good, Alex, they shouldn't have died. They should be alive today. Okay. I blame these organizations, these far left organizations that have gone batshit crazy, that are putting out this message, that are turning people are losing their minds, and they're going out there. It reminds me of the Joker. They're just going out there and doing things that they normally wouldn't do.
Land the plane. Now, I want to move on from this, but I'm just going to say this is somewhat proving my point. They shouldn't have died. You can blame those organizations. I'm going to blame the ICE agents. There was absolutely. This is my response to this is short. There is zero. Hold on, with Renee Good. There is zero justification for that guy shooting her. I don't care. She wasn't coming at me miles an hour. There was zero reason. Could dragged her out of the car, tossed her on the floor, kicked her, whatever. There was zero reason to shoot her. Like, she was not going to kill anyone. She was not even going to really hurt anyone. And they shot her. So all I will say is this, to go back to the core issue. I started out saying we're in a civil war. I think you and I agree on much more than we disagree on. And some of this is an argument I'm just trying to
But Rob, let me ask you, if a law enforcement agent told you to get out the car, if you impeded traffic or you violated, something, and a law enforcement agent came up to you and said, get out the car, what are you doing?
If I don't get out the car, he doesn't have a right to shoot me.
I'm not saying
this is the argument the right makes. This is the argument the right makes. If you only comply.
No, but hold on, you're acting like orders weren't given.
No, they were.
Orders from the police
and the issue
were given.
Yeah. David, okay, so I'll be honest. I have watched more abusive police behavior in my life, and I'm pro-cop, and I have friends who are cops. Cops are not all good guys. A lot of them are people with badges and guns, and they utilize their power in the most dickish ways possible. I have seen more abusive behavior from cops. I literally was with a woman and parked in the middle of the night, piled into her car, parked. Lucky we weren't in it. And the fire guys came and the cops came, and she was going, can somebody give me information? Like, what do I do with my car? And the cops got up in her face and were like, lady, if you don't shut up, we're going to arrest you. The fire guys literally stepped in and were like, dude, back off. We're the ones that smashed up her car. It's the least of what I've seen. So I will not defend cops if you just did what cops said, nothing bad would happen. That's maybe true, but it's not logical. And I'm not saying that protesters count here, but if you're in inner cities, kids are afraid to do what cops do because cops think they're bad. They run. They're trained to run. Again, doesn't justify it, but the conservative white, middle-class person's response of just do what the cops say. Yeah, you know what? If you
I grew up in Coney Island, though. Like, Rob, I grew up in Coney Island. I grew up in Coney Island, Rob. Like,
did you all do what the cop said?
Yeah, a cop
well, some
stopped
people
me.
don't. Do they die?
No, but it's the way that you carry the conversation. I'm not saying that there are not bad seeds in every industry. That's not what I'm saying.
I know, but I'm just saying this notion. You got to address my notion.
I've talked to a lot of law enforcement. Rob, I'm telling you, I've talked to a lot of them, and they tell me all the time, "We'll let you go." Like, if we stop somebody, we don't want to sit there and give you a ticket. If you're nice and you go about we're letting you go. If you're sitting there like a complete asshole, you're gonna give them every reason.
Yeah. All right. Well, again. You may give them every reason. I have a different view on this. I'm not saying that's good. I'm saying I've seen too many cops go rage when their orders don't get followed. If someone doesn't follow your orders, you have a right to force them to comply. You do not have a right to lose your temper, lose your shit, start kicking them, throwing them, punching them on the ground, and shooting them. And I've seen that too many times.
But I agree. I don't disagree with you.
Times.
But if they give you an order, if a law enforcement gives you an order, okay, you need to listen. Like it's the law.
Okay,
I'm not saying if they just come into. I think everybody's going to get carried away and take this the wrong way. I'm not saying if a cop starts yelling and coming at you for no reason, get out, that you're supposed to obey. Okay, I mean, you
Well,
would try to de-escalate the situation. Okay, you know, like I'm trying not to get
listen,
shot in
I
that
do what cops
situation.
tell
Okay,
me to do. Listen, I've got my own cop stories. All right, listen. Here's what's good about this. I want to end where we started. You and I pretty much agree on most things, and we're having this debate. Can you imagine you having this debate with one of those ICE wokey people?
but you
You guys won't
can't.
even get any common ground.
But you
There'd be
can't.
no.
I can
There'd be
listen.
literally
You can't. You can't have a
no.
debate with anybody who thinks that. How many people have I watched
That's
this
what I'm
week,
saying.
Rob,
Wait,
say that
you.
they
That's
hate America, they live in America, they hate America, and they hope that our military loses. Like, how do you have a
I know.
conversation with that kind of person?
I'm not saying you can. I'm saying we're in a political civil war.
Yeah,
That's
we
what I'm
are.
saying. If you and
And
I can have a healthy, you can have a healthy debate. You couldn't have this debate with somebody super far left because there'd be no debate. It'd just be a shouting match, and they wouldn't hear a
even if
word
I
you say.
want, but can you really understand what the far left is telling you? Like, I'm asking you because you're more
I'm
in the
not
middle
making
than
a
I
case,
am.
David. I'm making a case for a civil war. I'm not making a case for whether the
No, no, but
North or the South
so
is
I'm
right.
saying,
I'm
like,
saying both
how do you
sides think they're right.
unify a country? How do you unify a country? Even if Donald Trump wanted to unify, right? But he has reasons
Right.
not to unify because they try to jail his ass for the rest of his life, him and his family. So obviously he has animosity. You'd probably have animosity, and a lot of people would too. I don't know how forgiving anybody would be.
I've said this forever. I don't blame Trump for wanting revenge. I say he's on a comeback tour, 100%. I don't blame him for getting even. I think if anyone had done that to me or anyone, any politician, any person, it's amazing what he's put up with. I have defended him to the end. Of course, he's going to go after everyone. That said, Donald Trump wasn't going to unify the country to start with. He's an egomaniac who does what he wants and doesn't really want anyone to have any differing opinions. That's not a unifying force. He's a strong
But you know,
leader.
you know what's funny, Rob?
It's
When
almost
he
like he's
came
a
into
dictator. It's almost like we need a dictator to force us to face up to choices, and that's maybe what
okay,
we
let me
need.
ask you this question, Rob. Then, did you like him before he ran for office?
I didn't have an opinion either way.
Okay,
I
great.
liked him
You
when he
did.
did run for office. I liked him when he did run for office in the very
But,
beginning.
but think
I
about it.
still like
Before
him.
he ran
I
for
still
office,
like him.
everybody loved him, though. The left and the right.
Yes.
They all loved him. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden, when he wins, the left hates him. You know why? Because he's
he became,
uncontrollable.
yes,
You
and
can't
that's what
control
I liked.
him.
Look, what I liked about Trump from the beginning, from 2015, was I always said he was going to be a renegade. He was going to do what he wanted. He was going to break out of the boxes. He was going to be a bull in a china shop. I wanted that. I hate the way our institutions have been corrupted. I'm all for what he did. I am just saying I'm also capable of not having Trump, I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. There's people who have that. There's other people who have Trump adoration syndrome. I'm also capable of going, yes, what he's doing fundamentally has broken a lot of the deadlock. He's also, we talked about this on your show. He literally is fucking selling watches and coins with himself on it and like monetizing his name and likeness as president and says everything he does is great and anyone who disagrees with him is wrong. Like he wants it to be put a label on the Trump White House. It's sort of like at some point acknowledge this guy is an egomaniac. He's an absolute egomaniac.
So let me ask. So, but it's okay for Nancy Pelosi to somehow have $350 million. It's okay.
I didn't say that. I hate Nancy Pelosi.
No, but think about it. These people have been in their current positions for such a long time. What have they done for the American people? Yet their salaries, yeah, and they're getting paid $174,000 a year. Somehow their net worth is in the millions of dollars. Okay, they haven't done anything for the people, whether Democrat or Republican, Independent, Green Party, Yellow Party, whatever party. What has been done for America under the Biden and Obama administrations? What has 12 years of the Obama and Biden administration? What has been done?
You're missing my point, and that's the only issue I have here.
No, I hear you. You're saying Donald Trump is an egomaniac.
I wrote a book in 15 years ago, and I called for a national enema. I wanted every single member of Congress elected, whatever party thrown out, because I feel like the only way you get anything is if you start clean, because the system's so corrupting. And I love that Donald Trump came in and was a renegade. And I still like that. I'm just saying, I'm also capable of acknowledging who he is, what he does, that everything he does isn't good, and some of what he does is so selfish, it's not in the best interest of the country. And it's fine. He's going to serve his
what do you
time.
want? You want him to wait until he's done with his presidency? Because when he was done with being the 45th president of the United States of America, he's allowed to. I mean, he's allowed to sell his brand, is he not?
No, he's doing it as president, David. Come on. I saw the Trump watch ad the other day.
No, I get that. All I'm saying is when he left, when he was done with his 4 years, is he not allowed to sell the Trump sneakers? Is he not allowed to do these things?
No, I have no problem with that.
Okay,
that's not what I'm saying.
I get it. He's in
You know
office
I'm
right
right.
now. Hold on.
Come on.
I get
You
what
know
you're
I'm
saying.
right.
I understand, but
He's commercializing the president.
We live in a capitalistic society. If Nancy Pelosi was selling shoes, I'd have no problem. The problem I have is that you can't tell. No, I wouldn't because I'm not. I'm not one of these crazy righties. I'm not one of these crazy Republicans. I believe in capitalism. Take advantage of it. I have one problem. The only problem that I have, and you could go back and forth on it. Trump is now in crypto, something that he did not understand in his first term. He said it himself. Didn't like Bitcoin, the US dollar. Now he understands crypto. Obviously, his sons are heavy into crypto. They understand Bitcoin. I mean, Eric is in BTC. I mean, you got World Liberty Finance. That's where people can start looking and saying, oh, because he's benefiting, because he's the president, the organization, the Trump. That's where you can go ahead and have these arguments. Him selling watches and coins and hats and Rob, honestly, that's some petty ass shit that I don't care about. That's probably the bigger issue that you want to go after. Is like, is it okay here? Because there have been a lot of people in crypto, Rob, that have said, you know what? I had Charles on my show. Charles said something that you can debate. He said, if Trump would have came out with his meme token after the Clarity Act is passed, then number one, you get the Clarity Act passed, and then nobody can really say anything. Like there's no conversations. But being that he came out with the Trump coin first, now the Democrats don't want to pass anything.
You're right. Listen, I'm going to wrap this up. We're going to do this again next Wednesday. This is fun. I'm going to agree with you. And the coin was just an example. And we can talk about more later. My real issues with Trump is not the watch or the coins. It's just obnoxious. My real issue is that I don't think a lot of what he does is being done because he wants what's best for the country. He's doing it for his ego. And that includes some of his bigger decisions where he wants to be on Mount Rushmore more than anything. Now, so do most presidents. So I'm not going to, you compare them to anybody else, I'm not going to say their egos were any different. They're all egomaniacs. I just hate the fact that too many people in my mind see Trump as can do no wrong. And I'm like, Trump can do a lot of wrong.
No.
I give you 30 seconds.
Look at Tucker. What are you talking about? Look at Tucker. Well, even though Tucker was never a fan of Trump, I can't even go there because Nick Fuentes used Trump. He said he misses Obama. Okay, so we already know he's a Democrat, full-blown Democrat. Megyn Kelly never liked Trump. All of a sudden, she loved him because of his whole comeback story. Everybody jumped on and they milked him. Or you can name all these people now that are coming out after this whole Iran situation, and now they're against Trump. Now they're like, it's all of Israel. Israel pushed the. You know what?
Yeah,
there are
That's
a lot of
whole
people like
thing.
myself that can call it for what it is. I like 90% of what Trump does. I don't like the 10% of it. I already made an example. Robert Mueller, he served our country. He did a lot for America. Do I like what he did to Trump? No, but I think Trump shouldn't have tweeted what he tweeted. But he's angry. He's angry because he was, you had the Democratic Party that weaponized the legal system to try to put him into jail for life. So, you know what?
Yeah.
Again, that brings me back to Rob, and I'll land it, I promise, to say that, yes, in a decade from now, hopefully a unifier comes along, okay, where we can bring both sides together, but both sides need to be sane. Okay, you can't have a radical. You can't talk to the radical left.
And that's where we're gonna. That's where we're going to leave it because I'm not sure that's possible, and that's what scares me. If we enter a full-on political civil war, it will take a whole lot for anyone to bring both sides to the table, and that's a future conversation. Listen, this is fun. This is good. I enjoy this. Hopefully those of you watching enjoy it too. This is what it should be. This is what debate and dialogue looks like. And I love you, David. I love doing this. This is good.
I love you too, man. So listen, we
This
are
is
all
awesome.
entitled to our opinion. That's all. We can walk
Yeah,
away.
we're doing this.
Disagree like grown ass men.
We're going to keep doing this. I love it. I appreciate you joining me with your flag behind you and everybody for watching.
God bless America.
Yep, I second that. Yep, and I do like Trump. All right, we'll talk to you later.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together,